throw on 4th and 2 to Bucky. How much do you appreciate that play for both yourself and him? Because that is pretty much as good as it gets.
Well, I appreciate that, but honestly, when you go back and look at it, it's like, wow, that happened on 4th and 2. It was kind of just a broken down play, had a lot of time. I could have actually thrown it to him a little earlier, but knowing it was 4th and 2, I didn't want to like make it a bang bang play. Had plenty of time, and so Bucky made a great adjustment on the ball. He did a good job of just evading his defender and got open for me, and we just connected.
On those situational splits for the 3rd down, 4th quarter, whatever the case is, that you've had such dramatic improvement, is this mainly mental in terms of making a change, and what goes into that for you in those, if it is mental?
To be honest, not really as much mentally. I feel like I've had the same preparation, same like sort of approach to it. It's kind of just, if anything, it's more just scheme and execution at the end of the day. Once you get to 3rd downs, it's all about running your stuff that you're comfortable with and executing at a high level.
Have you ever had a game in high school or at Auburn where you had to come back like that and you were pretty flawless in that final 6 minutes or so of the 4th quarter? Have you just had experience doing that before?
Yeah, one that I can remember is my junior year of high school. We were playing in the 3rd round of the playoffs at Austin High School, and it was one of those back and forth type games, really high scoring game. We couldn't stop them, and they actually went up 2 scores at one point, so we couldn't ever catch up until the end of the game. We got a stop, and then went down in a 2-minute drill and score and beat them in overtime. So I felt like that was very similar to the game that we played. The only difference was I didn't throw a pick 6, so I didn't have that in the back of my mind just kind of nagging at me. But I felt like just in the second half, it was just our approach as an offense that we went in there, and I mean, we knew they wouldn't be able to stop us if we just executed, and we went out in the second half and executed at a much better level.
You had a pretty nice come from behind win in your college debut too.
Yeah, I did. that was also one. But to be honest, in that one, we ran the ball a lot better in the second half. And so I didn't really do much in that one.
Naturally, you don't want the pick, obviously. But on your view, do you chalk it up more to both a good play from the linebacker and that maybe if you just floated to Sean? I mean, it wasn't necessarily a bad decision.
That's right. It was more of a kind of a situational pick. I could have thrown it quicker, put it on him. I knew I was going to be hot with the defender kind of out there on the right, coming right towards me, and it was just kind of one of those things where you'd like to have it back. At the same time, it was a bang-bang play. We've practiced that a bunch of times, and at the end of the day, it's just unfortunate, and there's no excuse for it.
You mentioned the schematic change, without giving away everything, but I mean, from what's been seen, what is it that you and Kenny have done together to make the changes that we see what the results are?
Well, I think the most important thing is doing what you're good at on 3rd down. And I mean, you obviously get in 3rd down situations. It's all about 1st and 2nd down, getting into short, 3rd and mediums, 3rd and shorts, to where you stay out of the 3rd and long range, because anybody in a 3rd and long is not going to be very good statistically. And so when you can stay out of those and then run your base plays on 3rd and medium to short, run the stuff that you're good at, that's what I feel like is most important for a quarterback, doing stuff they're comfortable with.
Well, how do you keep the momentum going from a win like that from last week to this week?
Yeah, you know, it's good that we're playing at home. That's going to be refreshing to have a home crowd. But at the end of the day, we just got to go out there and continue to execute. That's the name of the game. If we avoid turnovers, avoid penalties, we've really had great success this year so far. So it's all up to us, and we say it all the time. We're playing Oregon each day at practice, and then when we go out there on Saturdays, it's us versus us. And it's just another opponent.
The games that you've had in Autzen so far, your offense has been rolling from the start. How important is it going to be this week to have that same kind of good start, strong start to your offense?
Any game, that's really important to get on the field, get some points early, move the ball, be able to run the ball early, and then complete passes. That's the main thing that we've been doing at home. We've started fast, we've been able to run the ball, and then we've completed passes. We've been very high in the efficiency category as far as keeping the ball off the ground.
Back to your success offensively. In 4 years, you've never played in front of an offensive line that's got 3 guys ranked in the top 40 at PFF's offensive line. How much has just the play of the offensive line been able to give you just this year the opportunity to make plays?
I mean, it's huge. I mean, the stat's crazy that we're the only team FBS that hadn't allowed a sack. That's incredible through 4 games. But it all goes to them, and it's the leadership and the experience we have up front. You know, we have a bunch of protection meetings, and we're all on the same page, and that I think has a lot to do with it. But it's just very, it's kind of a pride thing, you know. Up front, they believe in themselves, they take pride in it, they are sure to kind of make the right checks. And if something happens that's crazy, even if the times I've thrown it, maybe been knocked down, they'll come back and say, man, that's our bad, we got to keep you up. And I'm like, that's awesome that they even think about that, because I didn't think anything of it. It was just like a play to me, but they take such pride in the little things that even if I throw it and get knocked down, they still take it pretty harsh. So it just speaks to their character and their competitiveness and the guys up front that we have.
What answers have you guys identified for the red zone in particular? And
Yeah.
obviously you want to be similar.
Yeah, you know, that was something that we took from the game. We'd been pretty high efficiency in the red zone this year, and then they had a good plan, to be honest with you. You got to give Washington State credit for what they did in the red zone. They were very aggressive when you got there, and so we knew on video it was going to be tough to score in the red zone, and we didn't do our jobs, and so we in the first half there we kicked too many field goals. But that's definitely a point of emphasis this week, something to get better on.
Now you've done a handful of games, and everybody starts adjusting, picking up on tendencies and stuff. How prepared, again, not giving away anything, but just how prepared do you have to be for things like turning to the tight ends in the red zone when turns and that out there?
Yeah.
Between the 40s, Detroit leads the country in yards. Between the 40s, they're looking for big plays. Well, teams are going to start to pick up on that. They need to guard them.
Yeah, that's a good question. We have obviously really good coaches that look into our tendencies and see what we've done, so maybe we can change a few things. And at the end of the day, you don't want to give away too much, but you still want to do what you're good at. And so if that's maybe throwing it to a particular guy who's good in this situation, then you just kind of have to let the defense stop you. And if they stop you, then you make an adjustment. But until then, you don't want to get in your own way and change something that's not necessarily you have to.
How do you go about preparing for a cornerback as good as Caillou? Obviously, you have one in practice and Christian, but do you throw at Christian more this week because you have to try and thread the needle a little bit?
Again, that all goes back to situational football. I think when the times are there, we have to do a good job of executing. We're not going to necessarily throw away from him because we got to stay within our scheme and stuff. But you definitely have to respect him as a player. We've seen in the past, watch him on video, his technique, and see all the good things that he does. But at the same time, we got to stay confident in the receivers and have to go out there knowing that he's probably going to get a good play or two because he's a really good player, and that's just part of the competition.
What's made Coda so reliable for you as a receiver?
You know, he does everything right, even the details. He knows. He's played a lot of football. Ran a lot of routes, and he just does everything right within the system. He knows what we're looking for. He's very coachable. He listens to if I have something. It's like, hey Chase, maybe try something like this. He'll do it, and if it doesn't work, we'll talk about it. If it does work, we'll continue to do it. And he tells me all the time. He's very smart, knowledgeable of defenders and type of routes. So he tells me stuff all the time. We get great feedback. But and then at the end of the day, I think probably his catch to drop ratio is probably extremely high. I can't think of one that he's dropped. So he's just very reliable, very consistent. He makes plays when his number's called.
Same to this Troy.
Same thing with Troy. He's a very, very, very smart player. You get him out there on the field. He's very savvy. So if he's running a route that's supposed to be like this, drawn up, he's just very instinctual, and he may change it just a little bit to get a little bit more open. And me and him, we just have a good feel of the game right now. We kind of are in really good sync. I know the little tendencies that he has and how he's going to adjust and get open, and that's really important.
You're new to this rivalry. What have your teammates told you about last year's game with Stanford?
Well, I've heard quite a few things about Stanford, and at the end of the day, you just got to respect your opponent each week. And historically, they've been really good and have presented challenges for us. But at the same time, we know we're really good, and so we just have to go out there and play like it. And again, it goes back to playing Oregon and playing against ourselves each and every day and be the best team that we can be on Saturday.
When you arrive at a new school like this, do you actually go and maybe familiarize yourself with some of the rivalries and what's kind of happened recently, or what's that process?
Yeah, that's important. And then it's just locker room talk. You kind of hear it when things come up. And then national football, or like college football national stage, you kind of know that Oregon and Stanford's always been a really good game, and there've been some really good players playing in it, and historically it's just a good one to watch, and so we know that's what we're going to get Saturday.
Your coaches and teammates have really praised just your leadership skills coming into a new program. How do you feel like, we get to see you here, we get to see you on the field, but what are some things you do behind doors to really create those relationships and kind of earn the respect that you earn?
That's a good question. I think, the most important part about being a leader is like meeting them where they are. So if they're kind of a guy that is really good, they're ahead of things, and they know what's going on, and you kind of don't have to necessarily be as much of a leader towards them because they kind of lead themselves. Other guys, you got to bring them along a little bit more and kind of help them out and make sure they're studying the playbook, making sure that they're doing the right things on the field, and then it's all about your the presentation of how you talk to them. And obviously, just I've had a lot of experience doing that. I've messed up quite a few times being in a leadership role, and throughout my experience, throughout my journey, I've kind of learned just the do's and the don'ts when it comes to leadership. At the end of the day, you just got to love them and show them that you love them, and when they know that and they see that, they start to trust you, and when they trust you, it's easy to communicate.
I feel like this whole opportunity, but including the results you've had the last several weeks, but this is redefining you. I mean, clearly you have to be aware of what's been said and perception and things like that, both back at Auburn and in the SEC and et cetera, nationally. Do you feel like that this is redefining, that this is an opportunity to rewrite, the book's not finished yet?
Yeah, I think this is just a good opportunity to kind of turn the page and just, obviously it's not starting over because I've done a lot of good things in the past, but at the same time, it's a chance to just continue to play football and continue to just fix some things and become as good as I can be and continue to move on and grow as a player and as a leader and as a teammate and as a guy that's being coached pretty hard by his coaches. And so I wouldn't necessarily say it's redefining me because I was comfortable in who I was before that. And a lot of the things, like it goes back, a lot of the things people don't really understand, and a lot of things go into it. And so, but moving forward, I think that it's just all about winning games and continue to do what I'm doing to be the best teammate I can be.
All right, thanks, Bo.
Thank you. I appreciate it.